Welcome back to another episode. This is Zoe, and I am so stoked to have you here again. Grab your coffee, your tea, whatever you are into, and get comfy. Today, we are diving into something that is honestly on every founder's mind right now, the AI gold rush. And I am going to be real with you. Most of these startups will crash and burn, but the ones that make it, they are playing a completely different game. So if you have ever wondered why some AI companies seem to explode while others vanish without a trace, stick around. We are going to break down exactly what separates the winners from the ones that just fade away. But before we dig into that, here is a quick look at what is coming up. First, I am going to paint the picture of the current AI startup landscape. It is wild out there. Then we will look at the most common reasons why most of these startups fail. Spoiler alert, it is not what you think. Then I will share some real-world examples and patterns that you can actually learn from. And finally, we will wrap up with some actionable takeaways you can use right now, whether you are building something yourself or just trying to understand where this whole thing is headed. All right, let me start with the big picture. The AI startup scene right now is absolutely bonkers, and I mean that in the best and worst way possible. Every single day, dozens of new AI startups pop up. Everyone is racing to build something with large language models, with generative AI, with all the cool new toys that have become available, and the hype is real. Investors are throwing money at anything with the letters A and I in the pitch deck. It feels like the early days of the internet all over again. But here's the thing. The early days of the internet also saw an insane number of failures. Remember pets.com? Yeah, exactly. So what is going on? Why are we seeing this massive wave of AI startups, and why are most of them doomed from the start? Let me break it down for you. The first and probably biggest reason is something I call the wrapper problem. And this is huge. What is a wrapper? Well, imagine you take ChatGPT or Claude or any of these big models and you put a nice user interface on top of it. Maybe you add a few prompts, tweak the design a little, and call it a product. That is a wrapper. And right now, that is what most AI startups are. They are just fancy interfaces on top of someone else's model. And here is the brutal truth. If your entire competitive advantage is just wrapping an existing model, you have no moat. None. Zero. The moment the model provider adds your feature to their own product, or when someone else builds a slightly prettier wrapper, you are done. And we are already seeing this happen. OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, they are all adding more and more features directly into their own products. So that neat little app you built that just summarizes emails, yeah, the big players are adding that natively, and suddenly your entire business evaporates. But the wrapper problem is just the tip of the iceberg. The second big reason is that most AI startups are solving problems that do not actually exist. And look, I get it. When you have a shiny new hammer, everything looks like a nail. AI is incredibly powerful, so founders go looking for problems to fit their solution instead of the other way around. They think, I have this amazing AI technology, now let me find something to do with it. But that is backwards. The startups that win start with a real, painful, urgent problem that someone is already paying to solve, and then they apply AI to make it faster, cheaper, or better. They do not start with AI and ask, what can I break with this? They start with a pain point and ask how AI can fix it. And this brings me to the third reason. Lack of distribution. This is honestly the number one killer of startups in general, but it is especially brutal for AI startups. Why? Because everyone and their grandmother is building an AI product right now. The noise is deafening. You can build the most incredible AI tool in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it does not matter. And the easy distribution channels are saturated. Product Hunt used to be great for launching, but now it is flooded with AI products every single day. Social media? Same thing. Everyone is posting about their AI tool. Standing out is incredibly hard. And a lot of founders, especially technical founders, think that if they just build something great, people will magically find it. They will not. Distribution is harder than the technology, and most founders do not realize that until it is too late. Another huge issue is the cost, and I am not just talking about money, though that is part of it. Running AI models is expensive. Like, really expensive. A lot of founders build a prototype, and the costs seem manageable, but then they get users, and the costs scale linearly. or worse, superlinearly with usage, and suddenly their burn rate is through the roof. They're spending more on compute than they are making in revenue. And the worst part is, the big players like OpenAI can afford to run models at a loss. They have massive funding and they are playing the long game, but a small startup, they cannot compete on price when the underlying model provider can just undercut them or raise prices whenever they want. So the economics get really ugly really fast. And then there is the data problem. AI models need data to be good. And I mean really good. Relevant, proprietary data, not just generic internet data that everyone has access to. The winners in AI are the ones that have unique data moats. They have data that nobody else has. Maybe it is user behavior data. Maybe it is industry-specific data. Maybe it is data generated by their own product. But if your AI startup is using the same public data that your competitors can also access, you are not building a moat. You are just building another commodity product. And in a commodity market, the only thing that matters is price. And you do not want to compete on price. Let me also talk about the talent problem. Good AI engineers are incredibly hard to find and incredibly expensive to hire. We are in a massive talent shortage right now. Every big tech company is hoarding AI talent. They are paying absurd salaries and offering amazing packages. A startup cannot compete with that, and even if you manage to find good people, keeping them is another challenge. When someone can double their salary by jumping to Google or OpenAI, why would they stay at your early stage startup? The winners figure this out by being smart about how they build their teams. They focus on small, highly effective teams. They leverage tools and platforms to reduce the amount of custom engineering they need, and they often start with no-code or low-code solutions before building custom models. But most founders just try to hire their way out of the problem, and that usually ends badly. All right, so that is the doom and gloom. But now let us talk about the good stuff. What do the winners actually do differently? Because there are AI startups that are crushing it, and when you look at them, clear patterns emerge. The first thing winners do is they focus on a specific vertical. They do not try to build AI for everyone. They pick one industry, one use case, one type of customer, and they go deep. And I mean really deep. Let me give you an example. Instead of building a general AI writing assistant that competes with Jasper or Copy.ai, a winner might build an AI specifically for writing legal contracts, or for drafting medical reports, or for creating marketing copy for real estate agents. By going deep into one vertical, they can build something that is 10 times better for that specific use case than any general purpose tool could ever be. And because they are so specialized, they can charge premium prices and build real relationships with their customers. They are not trying to be everything to everyone. They are the best at one thing. The second thing winners do is they build real products, not just AI features. This is so important. A lot of AI startups are what I call features disguised as companies. They do one small thing with AI, and they call it a startup. But it is not a product, it is a feature. And features do not become standalone businesses. Winners build full products. They think about the entire user experience, not just the AI part. They think about onboarding, about support, about integrations, about workflows. The AI is just one component of a much larger, more valuable system. And when the AI gets commoditized, and it will, the rest of the product still has value. Another thing winners do is they start with a business model, not just a technology. They know from day one how they are going to make money. They are not building first and figuring out monetization later. They understand their unit economics. They know their customer acquisition costs. They know their lifetime value. They know their margins. And they build a business that actually works, not just a product that is cool. This sounds obvious, but you would be shocked at how many AI startups have no idea how they will ever become profitable. They are just riding the hype wave and hoping to get acquired before the music stops. Winners also build defensibility into their products from the start. They do not rely on the model as their moat. They build moats through data, through network effects, through workflow integration, through brand and trust. Network effects mean the product becomes more valuable as more people use it. Think of something like Figma or Slack. Workflow integration means your product becomes so embedded in your customers' daily operations that ripping it out would be incredibly painful. And brand and trust means that over time, customers trust your product and your company, and that trust is hard to replicate. Winners build multiple moats, not just the technology. Another key difference is that winners are obsessed with user experience. They know that AI is still confusing and intimidating for a lot of people, so they hide the complexity. They make it simple. They make it delightful. They do not force users to understand how the model works or to craft the perfect prompt. They just make it work. The best AI products are the ones where you do not even realize AI is involved. It just feels like magic, and that is hard to do. It takes a lot of product design thinking, but that is exactly what separates the winners from the losers. Winners also ship fast and iterate even faster. The AI landscape is moving at breakneck speed. What works today might be obsolete next month. Winners are not trying to build the perfect product before launch. They launch early, they get feedback, and they iterate. They treat their product as a living thing that evolves. Losers, on the other hand, spend months in stealth mode trying to build something perfect, and by the time they launch, the world has moved on. Speed is a massive advantage in AI right now. Let me also talk about something that might seem counterintuitive. Winners are not afraid to use multiple models. A lot of startups get locked into one model provider, and that is dangerous. If that provider changes their pricing or their API or their terms, you are in trouble. Winners build their systems in a model-agnostic way. They can swap out the underlying model easily. They might use GPT for some tasks, Claude for others, and open-source models for yet others. They are not married to any one provider, and this gives them leverage and flexibility that their competitors do not have. Another thing winners do is they invest heavily in evaluation and quality. This is something a lot of people overlook. AI models are probabilistic, which means they do not give the same output every time. They can be wrong. They can hallucinate. Winners build robust evaluation systems. They test their models constantly. They have human-in-the-loop systems for critical tasks. They do not just trust the AI, they verify it, and this builds trust with their customers. Because if your AI tool gives wrong answers, even 10% of the time, that is not good enough for most professional use cases. Winners make sure their products are reliable, consistent, and trustworthy. And finally, winners think long-term. They are not building for a quick exit. They are building real companies. They understand that AI is a platform shift, not just a trend. And they are positioning themselves to be valuable in a world where AI is everywhere. They are thinking about what happens when AI becomes as common as electricity or the internet. What will still be valuable then? Data, relationships, trust, workflow integration, brand, exactly the things we talked about earlier. Losers are thinking about how to get acquired in the next 18 months. Winners are thinking about how to build something that lasts a decade. So let me give you a concrete example to tie all of this together. Imagine there are two startups. Both are using AI to help doctors write medical notes. That is a real use case, by the way. Doctors spend hours every day on documentation. Startup A builds a wrapper on top of GPT. They have a nice interface, and they launch with a generic model that does okay. They charge a low monthly fee. They have no proprietary data. They have no special integrations. They have no evaluation system. They just put a thin layer on top of a general model, and they rely on word of mouth for distribution. Startup B, on the other hand, partners with 5 hospital systems from day one. They collect thousands of hours of real medical note data, with permission, of course. They fine-tune their own model on this data. They build deep integrations with the electronic health record systems that hospitals already use. They build workflow tools that go beyond just note-taking, like automated coding and billing suggestions. They have a team of medical professionals who review and evaluate the AI output. They charge based on value, like a percentage of the time saved or the revenue captured, and they build a sales team that goes to hospitals and clinics directly. Which one do you think will win? It is obvious, right? Startup B is building defensibility at every level. They have proprietary data. They have deep workflow integration. They have trust built through their evaluation process. They have a business model that aligns with their customer success, and they are not easy to displace. Even if OpenAI releases a medical note feature next week, it will not have the integration, the data, or the trusts that Startup B has built. So here is my takeaway for you, whether you are building an AI startup, investing in one, or just trying to understand the space. AI is an incredible technology, but technology alone is not a business. The winners are not the ones with the best AI. They're the ones who understand that AI is just one piece of the puzzle. They build real products for real customers. They solve real problems. They build moats that go beyond the model. They obsess over user experience. They ship fast and iterate. They think long term. And most importantly, they do not fall in love with the technology. They fall in love with the problem. And you know what? That is actually great news because it means that the barriers to building a successful AI company are not just about having the smartest engineers or the biggest compute budget. It is about understanding customers, building great products, and executing well. Those are things that anyone can learn. Those are things that you can do. So if you are out there building something, keep going. But be honest with yourself. Are you building a wrapper or are you building a real business? Are you solving a real problem or are you just in love with the tech? Are you thinking about your moat or are you hoping for the best? All right, let me quickly wrap up what we covered today. We started by looking at the current AI startup landscape and why it is so chaotic. Then we talked about the biggest reasons most AI startups fail, including the wrapper problem, solving fake problems, lack of distribution, high costs, data issues, and talent challenges. Then we flipped the script and looked at what winners do differently. They go deep on a vertical, build full products, start with a business model, create defensibility, focus on user experience, ship fast, stay model agnostic, invest in quality, and think long term. And we walk through a concrete example of how this plays out in the real world. I hope this episode gave you some food for thought. The AI space is moving incredibly fast, and it can be easy to get caught up in the hype. But the fundamentals of building a great company have not changed. Solve a real problem. Build something people love. And do not forget to have fun along the way. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to subscribe to the podcast. It really helps me keep doing this. And if you know someone who is thinking about building an AI startup, share this episode with them. They might thank you later. Until next time, stay curious, stay smart, and keep building. This is Zoe, signing off.